This is a Clouds weather alert.
Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, tracking a severe thunderstorm warning in play for portions of South Georgia. Out of the Tallahassee office, they issued one until 1 o'clock for areas of Berrien, Cook, and Lanier. And in the Jacksonville office, issuing one for portions of Atkinson and Clint, so also until 1 o'clock here. So 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, inch-size hail, both possibilities here, so we need to be very mindful of those as we're tracking things in toward that area here east of Interstate 75. So severe thunderstorm warnings in play. You see some hail showing up here on the Doppler algorithms as we're looking northwest of Lakeland, Georgia. Some of these colors indicative of over an inch in diameter here on the hail track. You can see that in the Ray City vicinity, and then kind of moving there closer toward Lakeland, Georgia. So Sherman's there as well. Again, severe thunderstorm warning in play with this toward areas there in the Tallahassee Weather Service jurisdiction and Jacksonville. So two different polygons. At about 12:13, severe thunderstorms there. We're tracking southeast at 30 miles an hour across areas there in and around Cook, Berrien, and Lanier counties. Southeastern Cook, southeastern Berrien, and Lanier counties there. And then we also have southwestern Atkinson and northwestern Clint. Jacksonville office tracking the same complex east at 25. But yeah, definitely a little bit southeast there as the situation does evolve. Homerville, Argyle, DuPont, Cogdill, under that warning there. The warning from Tallahassee is for Nashville, Lakeland, Ray City, Meigs, areas there around the Berrien County Airport, New Lois, Massey, getting toward Hansel, Allenville, Weber there, or Weber, and then Teeterville. So again, that's what we're dealing with this afternoon. We could have more of these here that are kind of on the marginal side that develop through the day. There is a mesoscale discussion in play, talking how there was and still technically is a low chance for like maybe a thunderstorm watch, 20%. So that probably won't happen, but could definitely have some more warnings. I know this is a situation here where there are marginal warnings in play right now, but things are technically just fairly severe. There's some weak rotation too, and not enough for a tornado possible tag. So we just got to be kind of mindful here. I know they're talking that a couple of intensifying storms may pose a risk for marginally severe hail and localized potential damaging wind gusts to 2 to 4 p.m. So they're saying that the Storm Protection Center is at low level force and for remains a bit unclear, but scattered thunderstorm initiation appears underway with a broadly confluent prefrontal low level regime and then isolation within a seasonally moist boundary layer coupled with some subtle mid-level height falls on the southern fringe of the westerlies are contributing to the weakening of inhibition as CAPE increases to in excess of 1,500 joules per kilogram in the presence of modestly steep lapse rates. So I know it kind of gets, it's pretty, detailed there with the meteorology, but I'll keep reading that there from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman. They say that a deep layer westerly flow and shear through lower to mid levels appears modest, but 50 plus knot flow near and above 300 millibars may enhance stronger storms as they deepen in excess of 45 to 50,000 feet above ground level with additional destabilization, and gradually a couple of these cells may be capable producing small to marginally severe hail and a few strong downbursts, potentially damaging surface gusts at about 2 to 4 p.m., which is 18 to 20 Z. So it's kind of storyline there. As we're tracking things, as we keep you guys informed here, obviously, on what's going on. I know the Moody radar is down. We'd have a lot better look at this. There looks to be some broad rotation as we look a little bit further up here on velocity. So let's go ahead and pull that on in right around the southeast side of Lakeland, Georgia there. Maybe some weak rotation, but hard to say for sure. I mean, that looks like a little something, but again, it could just be the edge of this. We're so far away on the radar, it's hard to say. As you look over toward the Homerville area, and Ward rotates and moving toward Homerville proper. That's something to kind of keep our eyes on here as we're tracking this. I know trying our best with the radar technology as the Doppler, continues to monitor things here. Definitely important as we're tracking things. You see quite a bit of lightning there towards south central Georgia and the like. So again, severe thunderstorm warnings in play there east of Interstate 75 right now until 1 o'clock. Make sure you're inside and away from windows here as we're tracking things. You can see Rice City, Lakeland, Sherman's that area there, and then over toward Homerville and toward parts of Clinton County. Again, we have potentially severe weather. Again, having to look pretty high up on the Doppler on this. Let's go to the Jacksonville view. When you see some of that wind still north of Lakeland on that perspective there in Georgia. So as we kind of look here, this is about 8,000, 7,000 feet up. Tallahassee radar. Let's look over here. It's about 8,000, 9,000 feet up. So kind of the storyline has a situation that does evolve here. You have to be very mindful of what's going on. Just have to be very mindful here of the scenario. I know, just trying to keep you guys up to date here. In our local area, it's not something that's tornadic, not a really big national story, but it's our local area that we're tracking right now. So we just have to stay tuned here for the very latest on what is going on. I know just got a upgrade of a slight 2 out of 5 severe weather risk here for portions of our zone. That just came out from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman. And that's coming for the wind threat in particular. So let's go ahead and kind of show that to you here on the other source. I'm getting that ready. Here you go. You see that yellow area. That's a 2 out of 5 severe risk that's been introduced now. So, it's not out of the question we get severe thunderstorm watch in it. We have some type of risk like that in play. It even goes further east here with how things are evolving. Very, unpredictable setup. As you see here, going from Tallahassee through Valdosta area, Perry, Live Oak, Lake City, McClenny, and even into Bradford County. And you see over toward Jacksonville and through Nassau County, and then you see we're right here in Stark, right on the edge of this now. So it could get some type of watch. Severe thunderstorm watch is what I would think. It wouldn't be a tornado watch based on there not being a tornado risk in place. So if we get a watch, it'd be a severe thunderstorm watch unless something really changes on us here. We're seeing some weird, tornado spins in the night with some warnings and confirmed tornadoes even toward central Georgia and central Alabama. But tornado parameters are a lot weaker overall now. Doesn't mean we couldn't get a quick spin up one. That's still on the table, still possible. But you see the supercell composite and the instability though. Those are some really high values, and that goes to show with this boundary enough intact coming in this high level instability. It could be pretty active potentially. I mean, whether we see quite a few warnings, for marginal severe-ish, or if we have just quite a few advisories for stuff that's just under severe limits. I mean, that's still on the table here up for, discussion on what could happen, but it's up for, kind of up for grabs here meteorologically for which way it could go. But you're watching this here on Homerville, definitely expect some hail at that lunch hour there in Clinton County. Lakeland, Georgia area could be getting some hail right now too. Homerville, it might still be underway, but it's probably in Lakeland, Georgia there, and parts of that area there, if it is, moving on in Lanier County. Again, be very mindful of that, obviously. Again, continue to track things here. Continue to monitor. I'm trying to keep you safe. Impending weather situation. Again, we're trying to make sure we're staying on top of this. You know, we're in Bradford County, we're on for all tornado warning zones in 62 counties, but on for a lot of different thunderstorm warning situations as needed as well. And I felt this one was necessary to be on with 2 different polygons, 2 different offices, enough of an indication aloft for hail and wind concern. If we had the radar there right at Moody, it's been down a while now. If we had that, that could give us a better idea of what's really going on in here. But is unfortunately down, so that's just the way it goes sometimes, I guess. But as we go ahead and keep on watching, keep on tracking here. Again, just trying to keep you informed. Just checking here the storyline. Again, trying to check for updates here on what's happening. You see a couple different areas of hail. You know, 2 different polygons for the same complex, but a couple different areas of enhancement. And you see rain cool air, how it is toward Tifton, toward Moultrie. Definitely a little cooler there. But some areas still need that rain, don't want the lightning or severe weather, but some areas are picking up here a good bit over the last little bit. You see areas there around Nashville, Georgia, almost 2 inches just toward the east of town is where that's focused at in the last hour. So just kind of watching some of those rainfall amounts there, the swaths on that. Let me go ahead and see what else we might have here. Let me go ahead and see what else we might have. We're going to pull up the model guidance here, I think. Let me take out the current temperature. I know it's been hot. You know, going to have a little bit of a cool down, but it's going to pretty much, you know, still be hot into the extended period here. So you see, you know, as we're looking, I know the model was not picking up on all this here. ARRR and some of the more, you know, recent extended runs. You know, it's kind of a situation here where this is more than just your average pop-up stuff. So that's why we're kind of on here right now. I mean, this is the extended run. I may have to just go longer, you know, out here, later out, as we're tracking things. Try to get some of the latest information. Yeah, let's do that since we're already, you know, later anyway. I mean, still not picking up on this well at all. I mean, that's what the radar is supposed to be looking like at the start of this hour, and instead it's more organized and a little bit further to the south because I didn't even have anything where the warnings are. So it's just sometimes it doesn't initialize, you know, initialize right here. But you see the potential continuing. Probably got more coverage than that. Again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on here. And the Weather Center. These are both right on the edge of severe here. I would say very, you know, what I'd call marginal. You know, not overwhelming, but they are warned. And in this here, it doesn't look as significant, but it could also try to get a warning as we look ahead. Or warnings for severe thunderstorm activity. We're still in alert mode, you know, it's not an overwhelming threat, but just kind of continuing it based on everything we had off toward the north and west with the pattern. You know, such a big national storyline, and now it's coming toward our area, even though it's a lot, you know, less serious. It's still dangerous, and we got to still treat it that way. Whenever thunder roars, you want to go indoors, etc. inside that dirty building. Stay away from those windows as we're looking toward the east of I-75 here in Georgia. So important is to kind of keep an eye on things here. As we're tracking things, it is, imperative as I go ahead and look at some of these significant weather advisories further west here in case, these intensify. I want to go and give you a heads up. Doesn't look too strong in that at all. This here around Attapulgis has a little bit more of an indication though. If that headed toward Leon County, if that grabs much more strength, it's not quite there, I don't think yet, but if it grabs much more strength, they may go with a severe thunderstorm warning to report to northern Leon, or if it's in Tallahassee I'm talking about. So we'll see about, what is required over the next little bit as the situation does evolve here on us. So important is to stay on top of things where, the warnings are at over here. I wish we could pull that closest radar in, but, it is down right now. So, again, that gives you a lower level view of things. That's why it's so important in these type of scenarios. The closest radar. I'm just checking my source here to see if we have any cameras available in that region. There are none actually at Georgia 511 in Lakeland or Homerville. Let me see. It says there's one around Stockton, but it's not coming up. So. Okay, there is one around Moody Air Force Base, so that's where the radar site is. But we can kind of at least get an idea of the storminess in that region. So let's go ahead and pull that on in here. We're going to pull that on in the traffic system here. This is that view. You see some of these wet conditions there towards south central Georgia this afternoon. I see the update on the warnings here. Continuing for Berry, Cook, and Lanier until 1, and then continuing for Clint until 1. Both for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts inside hail, so those are both just meeting the severe threshold, but barely there. Atkinson was canceled by the Jacksonville office, but still have portions of 4 counties involved here in the weather warnings. So it's important that you take them seriously here. This isn't, in the worst of things, but it still looks a little nasty there in South Georgia this afternoon. So we'll move away from that camera for now, though. Always important to just keep our eyes on the situation here. That is for sure. Just looking through some different things. Appreciate you tuning in on all the different platforms here. Facebook, Twitter, /X, YouTube, and Twitch. So I'm keeping everybody informed here on these inclement conditions. So important to do that. Again, we're going through some of the information here behind the scenes. Tallahassee and Jackson will both going in their weekly weather radio test today because of the overall inclement weather. We're looking for the Tallahassee radar. These look a little bit weaker. but you can't say that with certainty because I'm going to look higher up than we generally would. Let's go to the Jacksonville view. You know, I would say that's the same look, but I mean, these winds here, around 50, maybe 60 in Sherman's. But that could just be, you know, a little bit displaced there. Be interesting to see what kind of reports we start to get in if we get them. Because these storms, you know, look relatively, you know, marginal, quite honestly. And I feel like the reports would determine, you know, if they need to continue the warnings here or not. Because right now it looks like it's really on the edge of if we actually have anything that meet the severe criteria. You know, to the east is not the area I have it on right now. That area is, you know, not warned for it. I don't think it needs it yet at this point. As we go ahead and look further off toward the east here, you're seeing between Lakeland and Homerville. You see moving toward the DuPont, Georgia community. Another thing I'm going to check here, power outage numbers to get an idea of what's going on. Okay, well, they decided to go ahead. I guess they're really trying to be careful. They're going to issue and have this issued, I should say. It's a thunderstorm warning now for portions of Gadsden, Jefferson, Leon, Decatur, Grady, and Thomas until 1:30. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, quarter-size hail possibility. So it's this area in here that I was talking about. Didn't know if it really needed a warning, but they're going to go ahead and issue it and have this done. So it'll pop up in just a second here on this source. So again, new severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Gadsden, Jefferson, Leon, and Florida, and Decatur, Grady, and Thomas in Georgia until 1:30. So make sure you're getting inside and away from windows over there. A new severe thunderstorm warning just being issued in that direction. So I kind of covered North Tallahassee and the like here. I know there's a lot of an easterly component we've been tracking with these. So let's see here. So we'll have to kind of see, you know, about I-10 north is where we're really concerned right now. You know, traditionally I would say these might be headed more toward Tallahassee proper, but they have a little bit more of an easterly nudge with them. This storm here is probably headed kind of south side of town. There's a chance, I mean, this could all fill in as well and then give Tallahassee quite a bit of storminess, but there's a chance it could kind of split a difference and then the worst goes north and south of Tallahassee, but it's too early to know for sure. As we're tracking things this afternoon, gonna check our power outage.us numbers here. Okay, Berrien County in Georgia. I know I'm watching that area and some of the other zones. So let's go ahead and kind of switch over here as the situation evolves. Multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. Berrien County in Georgia, 202 customers in the dark recorded power outage.us. 127 in Worth County, 113 in Colquitt County. Over toward Decatur County at 355. So some noteworthy numbers relatively as we're tracking things here this afternoon. Even 260 in toward Leon County. And if you're just joining us, our risk here for severe weather has gone up just a little bit according to Storm Prediction Center Norman. That yellow area now indicative of a 2 out of 5 risk for wind here. Damaging wind. They're saying they're discussing that along the southeastward moving cold front, moderate buoyancy is expected ahead of the front. A veered low-level wind profile will limit effective bulk shear, but scattered thunderstorms could yield multi-cells and perhaps even a transient supercell. Isolated damaging winds and marginally severe hail are possible with stronger storms. So, kind of a summary there of things as we're tracking. There's another slight risk, you know, further up and one back out here. So there's at least 3 of them today in the country. Just different areas of concentrated storminess. There was a little bit higher tornado risk in North Carolina. That's been lowered some. There's also a risk in parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. There's your hail risk, but then the wind risk is what prompts us here to have the 2 out of 5. At first glance, it looks like that's the only area with the 2 out of 5 wind risk today in the country is in our neck of the woods. So, gotta be mindful of that. Okay, City Visitor Advisory, the office in Tallahassee for portions of Lanier, Lowndes, and Brooks until 1:45. They're expiring to see a thunderstorm warning up that way. An advisory 50-mile-an-hour wind gust and half-inch hail up there. So let's kind of look at that a little bit. I gotta switch radars, obviously, toward the Jacksonville view. I was trying to pull up Moody on the other end, and of course that's down, so if we had that, we would know a lot better about what's probably going on closer to the surface. But looks like someone's about 50-ish around the DuPont area, around Lakeland, Georgia there. One's to about 50. So advisory over here. It still has a warning for now. I mean, technically both still have a warning to 1, but the one's kind of been replaced with the advisory. The one still has, the warning, and it could get, extended. We'll have to just wait and see here. Let me just go ahead and keep looking at the situation. I'm looking southeast to Attapulgis there. I'm moving toward the Bradfordville area. There could be a downburst. Quite honestly, I think that's why they probably issued this, based on the environment being favorable for that. Because this, otherwise, it's kind of the summertime velocity issuance within the, frontal boundary type of pattern. So, more organized in the rain and storm department, but in terms of the wind, it's more about a downburst. I think that's what they're looking for here. Because there's not enough wind here. Otherwise, I only have a quick burst of 60. So when you add these together, excuse me. So when you add these together here, north of Havana, it only comes to about 45 miles an hour. But a quick burst of wind to the surface could cause damage, maybe to 60. Got another area here northeast of Bradfordville in general. Again, continuing to watch things here. The storm out in Gadsden County. It's a little breezy with that, but it doesn't really look too overwhelming. Some of these greens and reds like this is indicative of a downburst signature, possibly. Wind's about 35 one way and about 20 the other way, so that's kind of what you would expect from that, possibly. So it's not going to be a consistent, damaging wind threat with this. Maybe just one little area, but it could, really knock, a few trees down in a spot. Quite a few limbs. It can be dangerous for those caught without shelter. As you see, like the Miccosukee area, Monticello there. We're watching that. Just here in Homerville. We're watching there. We're watching around Lanier County, around the Lakeland area, south there of town. As we continue to give you guys the very latest on exactly what's going on. And this is out here, focusing east 75, but this is here north of I-10. A little bit of a hook, but I think that's, just the overall reflectivity pattern indicating maybe You know, a little bit of spin, but not enough to produce at this point anyway a tornado. But we'll have to watch. Can't lay a guard down. Low chance of that happening today. It's not zero, even though there's not a formal risk for it. This storm pattern has produced further back northwest, so I wouldn't let my guard down here. I wouldn't let my guard down. And the pressure pattern, seeing 1012s, 1013s in the millibar range there locally. We're about 1013 on my barometer east of Stark. So, you know, kind of on the edge of some storminess. It's not overwhelming, but it's kind of what you see with like a tropical depression or something. So, this isn't a huge severe weather day for it by any stretch, but, you know, the threat has kind of increased a little on things. And even, you know, we were talking about west of 75 last night. Now, honestly, we've seen more of this form and push east of 75 here than what the model guidance was anticipating. So that's why that slight risk goes all the way over to Jacksonville through about Stark here. You see, you know, even the models recently weren't picking up on this, so it's already happening now. So we have to stay tuned and stay, you know, tracking things. Just looking here at the situation. There's a temperature to know it has been, you know, really warm. Really warm. I see that expiring clinch out, by the way, the Jacksonville office. The focus now is shifting temporarily, or, you know, maybe even in a more extended, you know, time frame here in the short term, if you want to call it that, toward that area, toward the Big Bend. Again, looking at things, that stability is really high, over 4,000 joules per kilogram in some of these spots, and there's, you know, enough supercell composite for some issues. The tornado parameters are low though, so as we continue to watch, continue to track. And I'm looking at some of the different sources here. You came on for stuff in Georgia. Now we're watching another area moving from Georgia into Florida. Let's pull up the visible satellite. See quite a few breaks in the cloud cover as we're looking here further down toward the south and east. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on here at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. I know we're watching some of this toward North Tallahassee. You know, some of this may be focusing more toward the Monticello area than, you know, like downtown Tallahassee. But then you have 319 there. It's going to be getting, you know, nastier in that vicinity next little bit. As we're tracking things, here this afternoon, it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. So this warning goes until 1:30 for portions of Gadsden, Jefferson, Leon, and Florida, and Decatur, Grady, and Thomas in Georgia. So I see special weather statement issued for now. Area's a little bit broader. Let me zoom out. Areas of Baker, Columbia, and Florida, and Clint Eccles, Ware, and Charlton and Jordan are 2 o'clock. Winds to 40 possible with hail to a ½ inch in diameter. Continuing to track all this here. The Havana area, getting into some of this. Trying to look at some of the traffic cameras here. Behind the scenes. I know don't have exactly the perfect spot here, but for this 2 minutes right now, but we have a look toward Bannerman Road and Thomasville Road. So it's pretty busy with the traffic, by the way. Let's go ahead and see that here, though. As we kind of look at the cloud, it's kind of looking more south, so you know, maybe not exactly what we need in terms of the meteorology here. In terms of the angle, but we'll continue to look at things here near the center. Just looking through some of the cameras behind the scenes. It's a one-man band as we try to protect you, your friends, your family. Again, trying to keep you up to date, obviously. Let me go ahead and look at this. East of Havana, eastern Gadsden County. Moving to northern Leon County with the focus on this. Most folks under the warning aren't probably going to see severe conditions. It could just be a select few that get that downburst maybe of wind over the surface though. You got to be aware of that. Now we're looking further up, but these look weaker here towards south central Georgia. I say that the Jacksonville radar now is a little bit more aggressive with some stuff in Clinton County. And it's like 55 on that, but watching a storm in Gadsden County with a little hook on it. Don't really see much rotation or wind enhancement, but it could strengthen here as we look ahead. You see winds about 40 here east of Havana. That's assuming there's not a burst of wind down to the surface with a downburst. In that case, winds could be like 60 or something, a little bit higher even. But that would only be for a short, period in time and in space. Not the most impressive severe weather we've recovered here in the Weather Center, that's for sure. But still could be problematic for a few folks. And the radar covered, especially look at the area east of 75 may make it, limit our angle on that to not know, it could be a little bit worse than it looks, or it might be almost, just, afternoon type thunderstorm accident is what it's more reminiscent of. Because it's in your typical pattern, we have a boundary here. It's going to cool off a little bit as we look ahead and toward the extended period. And in fact, I had the forecast that I did last night here, so let's go ahead and pull that on up here. In the other source, I'll take the banner off for the warning. I'm going to pull this in. This is that forecast again. Strong severe thunderstorms possible today, as we're seeing 60% chance of rain. You know, I was talking more about 80% west and maybe, you know, 30, 40, something like that. I don't know exact numbers I was saying last night, but something along those lines. The east 75, but that's kind of shifted a little bit. Kind of where we're kind of that focus is, you know, has kind of maybe indicated here that we could have a little bit, you know, and already seeing a little bit more east of 75, and that could, you know, maybe be more like, you know, west of 301 in Florida and east of 301 in Florida. Could kind of be a little bit more of the delineation line at this point in time. But so, models have really struggled here lately. It's already a tough pattern, and then, you know, we need all the data input that we can get, but it's just a tough pattern to begin with, and that's the biggest problem here. This is, you know, one of the harder patterns in meteorology with all the different areas of enhancement that we've been tracking, and, you know, it's not easy for the models to pick up on things. So, as we go ahead and look, you can see, as we go ahead and track things here, you can see that the rain chances really falling tomorrow. We could have some severe weather toward like West Palm Beach, some morning, thunderstorm morning, something along those lines. You know, you can't ever really rule out a spin down there with something, but even on Friday, we were watching the risk further downstate. But up here, the rain chances really are lower as we get into towards Saturday. Sunday, though, you can see that the pattern here is showing warming temperatures, and then we'll have a hurricane. So that's the next Thursday. No formal update tomorrow night because I've been so busy here lately. We'll be on Tuesday next with a formal update. Next Thursday at 10 p.m. or so with that hurricane special, of course, weather permitting, that we're not, you know, having to do special severe coverage or something then. But Memorial Day, you see that rain chance starts to creep up a little bit. Hopefully it holds off for all the, you know, remembrances around the area and the like. And then as you see toward next Tuesday there, that rain chance starts to go up a little bit more as the highs and lows during that pattern start to get a little closer, more humidity and a little bit more cloud cover around. So that's kind of your storyline there with that forecast. I know, just hope everybody stays safe here as we're looking ahead with the graduations of Memorial Day weekend here. Watch out, you know, at the beaches. You don't want to be, you know, in the water there and not, you know, being aware of the hazards out there. You always, this time of year, I mean, you know, some patterns are different than others, but this time of year has always been kind of tricky with rip currents, with people headed to the beach for Memorial Day weekend. You know, no matter how strong they are, you know, people coming from way across the country coming to the water, and then, you know, you just got to be really mindful here. Because a lot of times they try to cool off. There's so many people out there, and then there's a couple, you know, people, give or take, whether it's around here, Panama City, or even, you know, it doesn't have to be in our area even, it could very well turn tragic. So, you know, it could be something that we have to really watch for. Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, always have to be aware of those hazards, obviously, as we're looking and as we're tracking. So, let me go ahead and switch back on over though to the Doppler. We just got an update on the severe thunderstorm warning. Their cancel indicator in Georgia, but continuing Gadsden, Jefferson, Leon, and Florida. Weather service in Tallahassee, that is. And then Grady and Thomas in Georgia to 130, 60 mile an hour wind gusts, but then the hail threat's now under severe at 3/4 of an inch in diameter. This here is looking a little stronger. This here, I believe, now has an advisory on it. May, you know, get upgraded to something more if the trends continue. Let's go ahead and go to velocity here. Miccosukee area. And this area here, some wind enhancement. Over here in Clinton County, some wind enhancement as well, but not quite the severe limits yet, it doesn't seem. But going down US 441 from Homerville to Fargo right now is probably a pretty rough go. And make sure you have those lights on and you're taking it slow out there this afternoon. So I think at this point, you know, with stuff not looking overwhelming, we're going to keep the stream going here. We're going to have the active warning. But what I think we'll do, we'll just go ahead and wrap it for now, but cut back in as warranted. You know, I say if warranted, I think we'll probably have more warnings to the afternoon. So, not a guarantee, but, you know, as warranted, if warranted, we'll be back here with more. This current warning goes to, and it'll be on our other system in a second. It's the one north of Tallahassee. It goes to 1:30. In fact, let me just go ahead and I'm trying to get a loop together near the source, but let me go ahead and switch radars here. This goes here in the yellow box to 1:30. This one here looks, you know, that has that structure. It just doesn't really have the, you know, the way that's going, we might not be able to wrap it because there's a lot of inflow on that. Not overwhelming, but higher up, there's really not a lot of rotation, but the hook on that is worth monitoring. I know it maybe had a little bit more east than what it says it is here. You know, so that could head toward the airport area, give or take, within about an hour. There is an advisory on that, so have to be ready. You know, that could get a warning at some point. We're going to be watching, we're going to be tracking here, you know, as it is warranted, the warning to the north, as the situation does evolve here. As the situation does develop. So, we'll break back in here as it is necessary. For now, though, I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. We're going to leave this running and we'll be back here as we get new alerts in. If we have some new warnings, we'll make sure we give you the latest. It'd be nice if we don't, you know, we just have some, you know, rain. I mean, we don't want even the lightning, but probably going to have, I'm sure definitely going to have more of that. It'd be nice if we just get some of these to stay just under severe. But if we do have the warnings, we'll be with you guys to walk you through them here. You know, as the situation evolves. A warning still for another 15 minutes, technically. Could still have a downburst in there. We could have more warnings though to come. So please remain weather aware on this Wednesday afternoon, May 21st, 2025.
This is a Clouds Weather Alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back with you on this Wednesday afternoon, tracking a new severe thunderstorm warning now. Portions of South Georgia in this, but this threat is heading into and already in a little bit of northwestern Nassau County and northern Florida here. Really seeing the velocity kind of uptick. I mean, this those winds close to 70 miles an hour moving in the vicinity of Hilliard and the south side of Hilliard here. So this could cause quite a bit of issues here. You know, some tree limbs could fall, maybe even a few trees. This is a pretty nasty signature here on the Doppler this afternoon. And what I think I'm going to do is kind of setting things up in this direction here. I know it's a little bit unconventional, but since we were talking about South Georgia with the description on this stream, on some of the different platforms, I can't change it while it's live. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end this stream and come back on a new stream because I don't want people, you know, the threats kind of upticked a little bit toward parts of North Florida here as we're looking ahead. So I want to make sure people are aware of that. So I'm going to start a new stream with that in the description. So I'm going to be back here probably. It takes about 5 minutes or so to switch over. Don't normally do it like this, but this threat, you know, could be as higher in North Florida now than it's been in South Georgia as we have all that instability around. We already had a funnel cloud reported, you know, in North Clinton County a little while ago in the DuPont area. So we could even see some rotation with some of these in North Florida. So the chances of severe weather upticking here, but me going off for a few minutes to kind of reset things to switch to a new stream, that's not, you know, and situation where I'm saying you should lay your guard down. In fact, this is strengthening. This is a nasty situation. Portions of Nassau, Baker, Duval, Warren, Charlton to 245, but the especially concerning area here is around Hilliard. You need to be inside, away from windows. I'm going to treat this like, you know, a low-end tornado wind situation. So Hilliard, take shelter now. We'll be back in a few minutes on all the different platforms, everybody. This is a pretty nasty storm here, and you know we're ready, you know, in case we get any tornado warnings. But right now, it looks like just some really nasty straight line wind coming in there, in toward Nassau County and parts of northern Florida.